Now, that actually brings us around to the fourth part of this procedure. And in those cases where the body has become really toxic, for example, with AIDS or cancer, the experiment, now keep in mind, neither one of us are doctors here, so we cannot prescribe, we cannot diagnose, we can only say, we've tried it, you can do the experiment too. But in any case, experimenters that have done this, they find that in severe cases of toxicity, that there's actually a fourth modality that does help in those cases, although it's generally useful to do this anyway, and that is to use what is called the ozonator here, which creates ice-cold ozonated water. And actually what you do is you take a glass of water, you put some ice cubes in it. This one's already melted in the hot lights here. You put in this air stone here. This unit plugs in. You turn it on. And you can see that there's this stream of bubbles of air that are going in through this water here. And that's not just air. That's ozonated air. Ozonated air is electrically been changed so that it does creates a very vibrant form of oxygen. And you leave that in there 5-10 minutes, being careful not to breathe it, so I'm going to turn it off here so I don't gas ourselves out here. But after 5 or 10 minutes, this will then have a very rich amount of oxygen in it. And once it has a very rich amount of oxygen, you can taste it. It'll taste like and smell like air after a good thunderstorm. It'll have a very clean, fresh smell to it. And you can drink this. I'm going to be drinking a lot here, it seems like. But that's part of the process, is you do want to flush those toxins out. You can drink that. That then goes into the stomach, which has a very rugged lining. Now, the reason we don't breathe for this is because our lungs are not designed, they're too sensitive for ozone, but our stomach lining is designed for caustic acids and such. And so when we drink this, the oxygen, the highly electrified oxygen, is absorbed through the stomach lining, and you can show this medically by using an oxygen sensor. If you've ever gone to the hospital and been put under, they put an oxygen sensor to make sure you're not suffocating while you're under, because you can't scream out and say, hey, I'm suffocating. But anyway, they'll measure that oxygen. You can use that sensor to show that the oxygen in the body, in the blood, goes to 100%, and it stays there for a few minutes to about half an hour. And this does have to be made fresh because electrically it only lasts about 15 minutes before it starts to dissipate out of the water. And so it'll oxygenate the body fully. And the body has been designed when there was more oxygen in the air, such as biblical times. They've taken air that's been locked up in ice or in other places and measured it. And at one time, there was much more oxygen in air, which meant that we had a much easier time because as higher life forms, we need oxygen. And the bacteria and viruses and fungi, they don't need oxygen. In fact, oxygen is deadly to them. They just didn't have, they have a much easier time now because there is no longer as much oxygen around in our bodies and elsewhere. So these toxins then get burned up much more easily, the bacteria, viruses, and fungi that have been stunned because of the oxygen. A lot of people also find that because for the first time in a long time, their body's getting enough oxygen, that they just feel good, they feel alive, they feel vibrant. They feel for the first time like really God meant them to feel. So they just drink it because it makes them feel good. In fact, in Japan, I understand you can now go to an oxygen bar and breathe oxygen just to feel good. Well, this is a lot less expensive and a lot cheaper than flying to Tokyo and going to an oxygen bar.
I have a testimony.
Yes.
About this ozonator, the ozone water. Remember when, there's sometimes, I'm a coffee drinker, okay, I confess, I've confessed my sin before you, okay, and sometimes I don't want to wait. and I go ahead and drink my coffee, and then I do the blood purification, and yes, it does multiply that strength of that caffeine in my body, and I feel like I've had more than I needed, which is all I need. Just one cup does it all now. So what I do, if I ever forget, oh my gosh, I forgot, I'll go in there and make me a glass of ozonated water, and I'm not kidding you one bit. You'll find it to be true within 30 seconds to 1 minute, my caffeine, that nervousness is completely gone. Wow. My body is set free. And what I've learned since this is, according to Dr. Beck and all the other scientists that have researched ozonated water, is it takes all, well, let's say you were on drugs. Let's say you drank a quart of whiskey. Heaven forbid, don't drink it. Don't drink any, as a matter of fact. But if you did, and if you drank that ozonated water, after you had drank a quart of whiskey or a pint, whatever, I couldn't.
Pint.
Okay, whatever. God forgive them. God forgive me for even mentioning it. But if you drank the ozonated water, within how many moments or minutes, long does it take for it to come completely out?
Just for a minute or two will really sober up, and my brother tried this. I don't drink either, so, but he did the experiment, and it really brings the oxygen back to the brain. A lot of being drunk is just the brain suffocating.
Yes.
And so it just brings that oxygen right back in. But of course, the effect does wear off after a few minutes. So don't try this in the first place if you don't.
Well, I understand though that does it not just literally take that drug or whatever's in your body out?
Yeah, to some extent, but you know, it depends on, I mean, you probably can't drink enough to take it completely out if you just drank a pint of whiskey. But
okay,
anyway,
well, all right.
It does definitely bring back your sanity for a little while.
The reason I say that is there are a lot of people that are addicted to drugs. Heaven forbid, and we'll just believe God that they're going to be set free from that. But I know that when people drink ozonated water, it helps set them free from the different types of addictions that they're hooked up to. It literally separates you from that addiction. Right. And I'm finding that to be true with people that I know are addicts, because I'm a minister of the gospel and I want to pray for them and help them any way I can. And when I can give them a glass of ozonated water, it's amazing what it does to their brain almost immediately.
Yeah. And a lot of addictions actually are just that we are seduced by the devil because we don't feel well. And once we start to feel better, we naturally, you know, our body supports us being better and being healthier, and we have less of a need to grab for some quick fix of any kind, whether it's a recreational drug or even the prescription drugs, because we just don't have that much of a need for anymore. By the way, there is one other product that Bob Beck invented about 15 years ago. It's actually the way he got into electromedicine, called the brain tuner. That's Tuner, and it tunes up the brain, and it's a little box that you can wear in your shirt pocket, and it has a little C-shaped plastic ring that fits just into the notch behind the ears, and you turn this on, and your earlobes feel like they're about to fly away, like you've got Dumbo ears. But what it does, it balances the brain, and it reduces addictions, it gets rid of depression, it improves mood, improves memory. People report that it gets rid of the migraines. And this is not just Bob Beck's word. I mean, they've done studies.